Bonjour, bonsoir. Welcome back to my channel. This is Avali Storm, and this will be part 3 of Vanity's Secrets, talking about some of the behind the scenes information that was not in her book, Blame It on Vanity, from people that actually knew her and worked with her in the industry. The thing that was interesting about Vanity to me is that when before she became Vanity, she was Denise. And when she came to Hollywood and met Prince, that's when her image changed. She was a model, as everybody knows. She modeled in Toronto, Japan, New York, and she in California, and she became a singer in Prince's group called Vanity 6. The story behind that is that he created that group for her because she was offered an opportunity to work with Rick James and be in the Mary Jane Girls group, and she was going to be number 4 Mercedes. She was going to be that person in that group. And Prince heard about what Rick was trying to do, and he got upset and decided to create a group for Vanity and make her the lead singer and the face and name of the group to keep her with him. Prince had a tendency to want to keep certain people in his stable. He may have loved Vanity, actually. I'm not 100% sure how much he loved her, but I think he was more in love with what she looked like. She was a very beautiful, stunning woman, and I think he was more infatuated with her beauty as opposed to being in love with her as a person. Hence the name Vanity. He saw himself in her and wanted to be her in so many ways. He wanted to look like her. And you can see it in some of his songs and work. The Beautiful Ones was about vanity. When Doves Cry was about vanity, and several other songs. The Most Beautiful Girl in the World was about vanity. So Prince was infatuated with her, and almost every woman that he dated or married had a Vanity-esque look about themselves. I think the one that was the closest one that looked like Vanity was Manuela Testolini. She looked a little bit like her, almost like she could have been her sister. But none of them could really stand next to her. I mean, she was beautiful beyond the average. She was like a supermodel. Her face was exquisite, and I don't think any of the other women could match her. Although they were pretty, they weren't as pretty as she. I think once Denise became Vanity and Prince gave her the name Vanity, he's the one that chose it for her. And she talks a little bit about it on Johnny Carson's show.
No, you're joking.
Yeah. Anyway, you're a remarkable looking young lady.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. How'd the name Vanity come about? Why'd you choose that?
I didn't choose it, actually. Prince chose it.
Prince was the one who chose it? Do you like it?
Yeah, I like it. It took a while, though, I'm just... Actually, for the last year, I've just become really comfortable with it.
Yeah. Are you vain? Would you consider yourself vain?
I suppose we all are.
Yeah.
I mean, I know every mirror in this...
And as she said that, she had to become comfortable with the name Vanity because it means so many things to so many different people. Because when I heard the word vanity, I'm thinking of somebody that's vain, somebody that's arrogant, stuck on themselves. I didn't necessarily think of like a mirror, a vanity mirror. That's not the first thing that came to mind. I went more deeper into it. That somebody that's vain and arrogant, believes in their own beauty and things of that nature. That's what I thought the name meant. But I think she and Prince recreated what they wanted it to mean. And they were talking more of how it is a reflection of themselves, looking in a mirror, and how it's a reflection of themselves. He saw her when he looked in the mirror, and she saw him when she looked in the mirror. That's what they said it was all about, which is kind of interesting. Maybe they're saying they were soulmates to a certain degree. I think that they became like each other when they spent time with each other. I think they were so infatuated with each other they took each other's personalities on, And when Denise became Vanity and they gave her a look, which she was supposed to be this very sexy sex goddess and kind of a dominatrix type woman, very aggressive, very wild and very crazy. That's the image that they gave her when she was in Vanity 6. And she accepted it. She said, well, that was a way of her getting herself into the business of singing and acting. It really opened the door for that for her. And it started out kind of innocently enough, okay, you're going to have an image and this is what we want you to wear. We want you to wear a camisole and be half naked on stage and sing sexually aggressive lyrics and things of that nature. That'll get you noticed. And that's what she really wanted. She wanted to get noticed. And it really did help her to be noticed. Because in Vanity 6, her Nasty Girl single sold over 500,000 copies, which was excellent for that time frame. For the 80s, that was really good. So she made a noise for herself and people started to pay attention to her. And she went on to do a solo album, as everybody knows. But during that time, what was happening behind the scenes is in order for her to be Vanity, she had to take on a spirit, a personality. And it was more than just the name. She had to talk and walk a different way than what she usually talked and walked like, acted like, was totally different. Vanity was more or less a sorcerer or a witch. And people, you could see it in her mannerisms. You could see it in her stage performances that she was very witch-like. The things that she would do was very occult-like style, like with the capes and, or the gorilla fur with the lace. And it's just certain things that she would do. And then she only usually wore black. That's another thing. Either she wore black or white. It's very rarely that you saw her in any other color other than black or white. And that was her duality. I think she was showing people that she had two different personalities. There was Denise and then there was Vanity. And they were kind of fighting for control because they were totally different from each other. They're polar opposites. And I find that happens a lot with people in Hollywood, is that they have these dual personalities. Usually their alter ego or the person that they would like to be is what they put on stage. And the real person is totally different. It's usually somebody who's very quiet, very conservative, a deep thinker, even a religious person, other than what they portray on the screen. And I think people find that a little surprising when they meet these celebrities or their idol, and they see that they're nothing like they are on stage. So I tell people, what the reason why that is because these people are taking on a spirit that they conjure up. They actually conjured up Vanity. Prince and Denise conjured up a spirit and they named it Vanity, and it was this alter ego, the sex goddess, and Vanity. Denise accepted the name and she let it be who she eventually became, and she showed it in a lot of her outfits that she wore. Like she would wear like the tuxedo jacket, and it would just have a little bit of white. It was a black tuxedo jacket. It would have a little bit of a white handkerchief in the pocket, or one of her cuffs would be white, and it was showing you that the black took over, the darkness took over, and there was just a little bit of light, and the little bit of light was Denise, and the dark was Vanity, and Vanity had taken over. And I was like, wow, that must be interesting to become somebody else and then let it totally take over who you are, and now you're totally 100% that other person that you transformed into. That was only supposed to be an act. It was only supposed to be for the stage, but now that's who you really are. And it took over her life. And with the Vanity image came along a lot of pestilence, the drugs and the sex and the witchcraft. And the things that she got into as far as witchcraft goes, she was getting into speaking to the dead. There was a lot of rumors going around that she would have these gatherings at her home, and she would have several people there, just like that you see in the movies, those rituals. They would hold hands and then they would chant incantations to conjure up a spirit so he can speak to a dead person or a spirit or a ghost. And she said many times that there were things being thrown around in the house. She would hear voices. She saw demons. And I think when that started happening to her, she was very afraid. She was like, oh my gosh, what did she do? She opened Pandora's box and she let all these demonic spirits into her home, and she couldn't get rid of them. And I think that's what really affected her, and it made her scared at some point as Denise. And then when Vanity took over, she pretty much buried Denise in the recesses of her mind. Denise didn't exist after Vanity became 100% total involved person in the occult, that Denise had to disappear. And you see it in her interviews how she acts and she looks very strange at times, and her behavior is a little odd because she's high too, but also there's this strange behavior about herself where you don't feel like she's not Denise anymore, that she is this character called Vanity, the spirit called Vanity. And it was sad to see it at times because you could tell that she had become somebody totally different, and that Denise was never coming back, or as far as Vanity was concerned, Denise would never show her face again. And when Vanity got totally involved into the drug scene with cocaine, that was her drug of choice. I think once she started doing, I think subconsciously, I think Denise was trying to expel or excise Vanity out of her. So she was trying to get Vanity to use more and more drugs, because it seemed like she was using drugs extremely heavily in the late 80s, early 90s, to a point where every day she was waking up smoking crack. That's what she said. And I think Denise was really trying to fight back, and then Vanity was trying to fight Denise. So it was just this weird situation where Denise was attacking herself basically with Vanity. It's very confusing, but it's true. It's like these two separate people within one body fighting over for Denise's soul. And I think once she got heavily into the occult and witchcraft, and she saw that it was actually real, and she was actually able to speak to people in mirrors, she was able to send telepathic messages to people. She was able to receive telepathic messages through these mirrors. She was able to see the future in the mirrors and the past and present in her mirrors. That's why she had so many of them. It wasn't that just because she felt that she was beautiful, but she was actually conjuring spirits through her mirrors at her home. And I talked about this huge mirror that she had in her home, where it was like a cabinet, and it was really tall. It had to be, I think the whole cabinet plus the mirror had to be over 6 feet tall. So it's like a 6-foot structure, really big. And then you open it up and there's huge mirrors inside. And she used to speak to demonic spirits and Satan through that mirror. And I think once she started to interact with the demons, it was she was so far gone into that she couldn't get out of it. She couldn't get out of it once she was in it. And she knew eventually that somebody in her family would have to be sacrificed. It could be one of her sisters, and I think she didn't want that to happen. I think Denise was still trying to fight back, and she was still trying to fight Vanity, and she didn't want to sacrifice one of her family members. Now, Vanity would have done it, but Denise was fighting so hard for her soul that she did not want Vanity to win. So during the time where she was after she finished Last Dragon, and she was with Berry Gordy, Motown, she met James DeBarge, the DeBarge family. They were in the movie Last Dragon, and she had an affair with James DeBarge after James had already had his marriage annulled with Janet Jackson. That's when they met and had a relationship. Now, it didn't last very long. James and Vanity had a fling of sorts. They kind of just, dated a little bit, but then had like a little fling. It wasn't anything substantial, but it was talked about. People talked about it. So, Vanity and Denise had an affair, or if you want to call it, I don't know if you can call it an affair if you're not dating anybody, but they had dated and they had a fling together, and that a lot of the DeBarge brothers loved Vanity. They all wanted to be with her, and she chose James out of all of them. And even Chico DeBarge was in love with Vanity. He was very much in love with her, and Elle loved her as well. But she ended up going with James just temporarily, as a fling. And people thought that Vanity was the other woman, or the woman that James left Janet for, which is not true, because Janet and James had already broken up by then, and he was free to date after that. But that was a rumor for a while, that Janet was upset that Vanity came into the picture and stole her man, but that's not what happened. And the interesting thing is that Janet ended up working with Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis for her Control album. As everybody knows, that was Prince's proteges. And also Vanity worked with Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis, was going to work on her third album, her fourth, I should say fourth, because she had one album with Prince, 2 albums with Motown, and she was going to do a third album with Motown. So that would have been her third solo album, and she was going to work with Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis. So there's music that was written and produced that is still on the shelves of Vanity during her third album with them. And she was changing her image around that time, where she was becoming more mainstream, and she was working with Paula Abdul, and everybody knows Paula Abdul worked with Janet, made Janet very, very famous, and she was going to be working with Paula Abdul on that third album for her choreography, because she had already worked with Paula Abdul on Undress, that song called Undress, and she did the whole performance in Action Jackson. When she got the lead in that movie, she became even more popular. Vanity became a pretty significant black female lead. She had become quite known at that point, and to be in another movie that was a box office hit really helped to keep her career at the top. But you could see that the witchcraft was there, that she was still involved in the witchcraft, and she was still speaking to the demons and to Satan through these mirrors and such. And she was having seances at her home periodically, to get more fame and to get more money and to get different jobs and things like that. In Hollywood, she was heavily into that. She had lots of books on witchcraft, and she had lots of information on the occult and symbolism, and she was actually practicing it. People don't realize she was actually practicing it. And I think Prince was kind of afraid of that, because around the time where Vanity got totally involved into the occult, Prince was trying to leave it, because Prince also was into the occult as well, early in his career. And he had a lot of the same symbolism that Vanity had in her videos. And once Prince started to become a Jehovah's Witness and the Seventh-day Adventist, he was pulling away from it. He saw that people were being killed and destroyed. He understood that there had to be a blood sacrifice. I believe his father was a blood sacrifice and his mother was a blood sacrifice as well, because they died in a strange way, very oddly. especially when his mother died. His mother died on February the 15th, and Vanity died on February the 15th. And I thought that was so weird. I was like, that's the strangest thing, how they both died on the same day. Like, that's the strangest thing. Vanity died on the exact same day that Prince's mother died. And that's why I was like, there's more to this story than people know. I said, that's not something that just randomly happens. It seems like it was orchestrated, because there's no way. How is that possible? That the woman that he was the most infatuated with, the woman that he was the most enamored with, the woman that he wishes he could have married when he had the chance, dies on the same day that his mother dies, February the 15th, one day after Valentine's Day. Not only that, but Prince and Vanity were supposed to get married on Valentine's Day, back in the day when they were dating. She wanted to marry on Valentine's Day. That was a special day for her, and he loved that day as well. And that's what they planned to do, but never did, because they broke up. But I thought, wow, isn't that interesting? What are the odds? And I think it was a setup. I said some very powerful people set Vanity up, or Denise up, and because she wanted to get out of the occult. She wanted to get out of the, as they call it, the Illuminati. But she wanted to get out of the occult, and it was too late. She had already signed her soul over to them. She had already signed on the dotted line. But she wasn't willing to sacrifice a family member. She didn't want to go through that ritual. And in order to do blood sacrifices, you have to be a part of the killing or the demise of somebody in your family. You are very well aware that it is you, and you're the reason why this person is no longer here. And the way they kill the person, it could be very many ways. They make it look like an accident. It could look like a plane accident. It could look like a drug overdose. It's so many various ways that they eliminate these people as a blood sacrifice. It's always on a specific date and time. It's all in the numbers. The numbers are magic numbers to them, and they have a vibration. And these people are killed in a very specific way on a very specific date and time and year. And Vanity knew that. She was very well aware of that eventually she would have to give up somebody in her family. She knew that. And that's why she got out of it. That's when Denise was fighting back and decided she didn't want to be a part of it anymore. She was fighting that whole vanity spirit. She was trying to say, no, this is not what I want to be. I want to leave. I want to get out of it. I'm leaving the business. And she talked about leaving the business. So she became an evangelist, and she went on to create what is called the Pure Heart Ministries, and she became a full-time 100% Christian. That was her religion of choice, and she gave herself over to that. She gave her life, the rest of her life, over to that. And I think she was like maybe 33 when she came to Christ and decided to become an evangelist. She was 33 years old. And from 33 until 57, she had given her life over to Christ. That's amazing. All those years she devoted her life to Christ. And she redeemed herself. And I believe that she was ready to go when she was diagnosed with this new ailment. So it was some type of a kidney infection that she ended up being diagnosed with, that she would need more surgeries to correct it and to stop the infection. But I think she got so tired of fighting to stay here on earth. And I think after she had been an evangelist for many years, she was complacent, maybe she was content that she did the best that she could do, and she didn't want to fight anymore. That she wanted to get to move on to the next phase, which is a transition into her spirit form and leave the earth. I think she was ready. I remember her telling people that she was ready to go home, that she was going to allow the disease to take over. But the thing that I thought was really strange is that if she would have got the surgeries, she would still be here. She'd still be alive. So I think there's something more at work here. I think that someone poisoned her in order for her to get sick again, and sick in that way. I don't think it was just a random disease. I think it's more just somebody wanted to claim her soul. I think it was these demonic spirits that were around her, the people that she became so-called involved with, and that they took her out. They made it look like it was an infection or something, but I think they poisoned her. So, because if you look at the dates and time she died on, February the 15th, and that just so happens to be the same day Prince's mother died, it's too much of a coincidence. You can't make this stuff up. And then he dies 2 months later. It just doesn't make sense to me, you know. And then he died on the Queen's birthday, and he died on Passover, April 21st, I believe. And it just doesn't make sense. It's just, you can't write this stuff. You can't make this stuff up. So to me, it was orchestrated, because he too knew that he was in trouble. And that's when he changed and became Jehovah's Witness and became a very strict religious person. I think he knew he was in trouble as well. That eventually they were going to claim his soul, you know, and I think he was trying to save himself as well. That's why he wasn't concerned about the money, and that's why he didn't do a will or anything, because he didn't care. He was at a point of his life where he just didn't care about that kind of stuff. And so when Vanity died, I knew Prince was in trouble. I said, oh, what's going to happen to Prince? And then he dies 2 months later. Very, very strange. And he died on Passover. That's even more strange. So I thought that was more orchestrated than by accident. So I just looked at it more so as you have to be careful of what you sign up for, that everybody is not your friend. Everybody doesn't have good intentions for you. And fame and fortune should not be the driving force of why you exist, because it's very fleeting. There's a price to pay for it, which is your soul. Your soul is your spirit that's supposed to live on after your body is gone. So you no longer will be able to go to something wonderful. That's the thing, you know. You no longer get to be with the Creator. You're going to be banished. So I think that Vanity talked about that on Joan Rivers, when she talks about you only have one life, and there's only, you know, don't believe in what Satan tells you, because Satan is the father of lies. And she talks about that.
I think God has given me the strength to get through it just fine. As I say, is it all worth it when you read the scripture and God says you cannot come to heaven unless you get reborn? Is it all worth it? I think when I get to heaven, God's going to say, did you hurt anybody? I'm going to say no. Did you do your best? I'm going to say yes. He's going to say, come on, man. The devil himself will lie to you and tell you that you can go. And God says you cannot. Well, and I'm here to tell you, this is what the scripture says. This is what the scripture says, John. But everybody, again, reads the scripture differently. I think it's great for you. You feel the peace coming out of you, and that's fabulous. But as I said, you're happy. You're not hurting anybody. Go to church with your grandmother. Be well.
You know, I think everybody has their...
That's all. I thank you.
So Vanity was an evangelist for over 20 years, approximately 24 years. And she was ready to go at the end of her life. I think that when she got sick again, she just didn't want to go through this painful surgeries and recoveries and such. She was ready to go. And I believe that her life is a cautionary tale in a lot of ways, where she's telling people don't get into the drugs and all the wildness that comes with it, because it can destroy you in the end. I think that she only went into the business, Hollywood, just because she didn't feel loved. She didn't feel like she had a voice. And I think that's why what she was looking for was for love. She was looking for love, and she thought she had found it, and she didn't. And she got back into her religion, and it's pretty much is what saved her, I believe. And a lot of I think she would have died sooner had she had not been connected to the spirit. I think she would have died much sooner. She would have died in the 90s as opposed to the 2016. I think she could have died back then. And God gave her a second chance, and she took it, and she did something with that second chance. She worked really hard to redeem herself, But you guys, tell me what you think. I mean, do you want to hear more about Vanity, or do you feel that her story should be told? There's a lot of information that people don't know about her. Let me know. And talk to you guys later. Bye.